Hello, my name is Tiara. Welcome to my channel. Today, I want to talk about hearing the voice of God. Or do you hear the voice of God? But first, I want you to know that you need to pull through. Wherever you're going through right now, you need to pull through. You need to have complete faith in God. And how do we have faith in God when we feel like we don't hear God? The thing is that we compare the love that we receive from everybody else to the love that God gives us. We may mistaken the love God may give us to the love we receive as children or from our partners. I hope you're getting an understanding of this. Let me pull it in a little bit. Sometimes we compare God to the people around us, and we give God that same personality or the same characters of the people in the flesh. And God's love is way past human understanding. So that's where we go wrong at thinking that God loves us the way those in our lives love us. People in the flesh love us. I hope we're making sense. Okay, so whatever you're going through right now, if you feel like you're not hearing the voice of God and you feel like God has forsaken you, I want you to know that it's time for you to pull through and you need to get out of that mindset. Why? Because God will never leave you. Job went through the same thing. If we go to Job chapter 30, verse 20. Okay. I cry out to you, God, but you do not answer. I stand up, but you merely look at me. Job felt that God had forsaken him. It was not that God had forsaken him, it was his perception of what was going on that took him away from God. Remember Adam and Eve, they 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 had fruit from the forbidden tree, the tree of knowledge. After they sinned, they hid from God when they heard God coming. That's what some of us do. We hide from God when we're going through our problems, thinking that we have to face these problems on our own. So we don't look to God anymore. We throw on our own will and we take off our armor and we throw on our own armor, that armor of the flesh, and we seek to try to fight this battle on our own. And that's what keeps us from hearing God's voice, because we're so consumed with what we want and our problems and how to defeat it. I hope I'm making sense. Job, God did not leave Job. It was his perception of his problem that made him feel that God had forsaken him. And sometimes situations come along to test our faith, to actually allow us to see what we still need to heal inside. If we go to Jeremiah chapter 33, Jeremiah chapter 33. And another thing, God said that what we feel, our relationship, how we feel our relationship with God is how we feel our relationship is with other people. It's the same thing. Like how you feel when you feel that God has forsaken you is showing an emotional experience or problem that is hindering you from loving other people unconditionally also. I don't know if that makes sense, but if we go to Jeremiah chapter 33 verse 3, call to me and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. Sometimes we go through these situations or experiences where we feel that we have no one. And we feel even that God has forsaken us. How we feel during that process is important, so that we can point out some things that have been bothering us or are causing us emotional turmoil, so we can go to God, put it at God's feet, so that God can heal us from these things. It is important to look at how you feel when you feel that God has forsaken you. This is this could be even showing how true your faith is and what level of faith you are at. I hope that makes sense. But David went through the same thing as Job. He felt that God had forsaken him, but it was his perception. If we go to Psalms 22, verse 1 through 2. 22, verse 1 through 2. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? My God, I cry out day by day, but you do not answer, by night, but I find no rest. We may be thinking that God does not hear us, but God could be showing us some things inside that we need to pay attention to so that we can place at his feet so that he can heal us from. I hope that makes sense. And it could be a spirit of impulsiveness or a rebellious spirit. What do you do when you feel that everyone has forsaken you? Do you act out of desperation? What do you do when things are not going your way? Do you act out of desperation instead of faith? Like, these are some things that, we need to look at, because we're not perfect. We will never be perfect. Only God is perfect, but we can lay these problems at God's feet so that he can lift these burdens up off of us so that we can actually be at peace. So when the same test comes around, it won't have the same effect that it had in the past. I hope that makes sense. But many of us need to stop comparing the love of God to the love that we experience on this earth, because God's love is uncomparable. I hope this message makes sense, but just like Job went through it, just like David went through it, you may go through it also. But it's your perception. If you believe more, if you put more faith in the problem than the promise, that there's a problem. We need to start focusing more on the promise than the problem. And Job had a promise. David had a promise. But there comes a time when we feel like it's not there because we don't see it. And then there's certain problems popping up. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to get difficult. But this is your time to show your real strength. This is your time to pull through and fight. This is your time to use God to your greatest advantage and allow God to heal your brokenness and allow God to take away burdens, to lift you up, give you wings. I hope this is making sense, but it's going to get hard sometimes. But you condemn yourself before anyone else condemns you, just as Adam and Eve did it. They condemned themselves before God even condemned them. So I pray that you stop condemning yourself and you start allowing God to heal you, and you start having more and more faith in the power within you that God has given you, and that is called grace. Because God has already overcome the world. You have already received the victory. You already have the promise. The thing is, when things pop up in our life, we believe more of what the problem has to say than what God has to say. We believe more of what the naysayers have to say than what God has to say. I hope you reap tremendous amounts of awards by the grace of God. And I pray that this message strikes some type of healing into your spirit, in your mind, in your soul. May God bless you more and more each day. Bye.